From the Public Radio Alliance in Minnow Beats Whale, it's Tanis. I'm Nick Silver. We're telling the story of Tanis in order every 2 weeks. So if you're new to Tanis, you should go back and start at the beginning. We'll try not to get too far ahead by the time you get back.
Have you given any further thought to coming to work with me?
Are you still having strange dreams?
Yes.
Do you feel like talking about anything specific?
That's why I'm here.
Right.
I am willing to try hypnosis again.
I think that's a good idea.
I had a dream last night.
Was it Tanis related?
Everything seems to be Tanis related lately.
Right. Do you want to tell me about it? Your dream?
I was living in a very small village in the forest. Nobody spoke at all. And at first I believed that everybody in the village was mute, but I don't think that was the case.
Why not?
Well, because one of the children whispered something to me after a long church service.
What kind of service was it?
It was a blessing or a baptism, some kind of baptism maybe, I think.
Okay.
There were about 25 of us, or maybe 50. It was hard to tell. The church was strange, cavernous. It was as if, I couldn't see the sides of the walls.
Okay.
The pews were long, worn old wood. I couldn't see the end of them either. I remember thinking they were simple, like the Holy Grail in the third Indiana Jones movie.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that film.
Well, it's just that everything felt simple, unadorned. And something about that platonic simplicity made everything feel more iconic, somehow more powerful.
Okay.
The pews were full, but we were standing, not sitting. We just stood there, heads bowed, waiting for something.
You said all of us.
Yeah.
So you felt you were one of them, the villagers?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
We were all dressed like, it was a little on the nose. We were dressed like something out of Salem, Massachusetts, late 17th century.
Like the witch trials, maybe?
Exactly like that. The leader, or whatever he wasn't a priest, but I knew that, he seemed to be related to some kind of something. He had a direct line to some kind of powerful spiritual force. We all understood that, but I can't really explain how we knew that. It was like we were living beneath thick ice, like opaque ice of some kind, and he was the only one who could exist or see above the surface of the ice. Of course, it wasn't ice, it was just a difference between where he could go and where we could go or follow.
Okay, so what was going on with the baptism?
Right. Well, the man...
The leader?
Yeah. He was wearing a dark gray cloak, and he held what appeared to be what I thought was a small child wrapped in some kind of rags or something in his arms. He started chanting in a language I didn't recognize, and he slowly raised the bundled child up into the air. Only now I could make out that it wasn't a child. It was an animal of some kind. I could see it had wet, dark fur, and it was crying, broken, gurgling. As he brought the animal thing down toward the basin, I could see that there was something inside the large bowl.
Something other than water?
Yeah, there was something in the water.
What was it?
It was the horn.
The horn?
The gray horn from John Corriman's journals.
And was that something from Tanis?
Yes. But,
What is it, Nick?
well, this is when I heard somebody speak.
Who did you hear?
A little girl.
Okay.
She turned and whispered in my ear.
What did she say?
She said, "It's not a horn. It's a tooth." And that's when I woke up. When we left you last episode, MK and I were at the Western State Hospital in Lakewood, Washington. David Glass was silent, as advertised, so we weren't able to learn anything new about a possible connection between the mysterious horn, Nikola Tesla, or Tanis. But MK, who'd taken it upon herself to perform a surprise reconnaissance mission, had uncovered something else. Or, rather, someone else. That someone was Tara Reynolds. There was no way we were going to be able to speak with Tara Reynolds officially. Her family had made that very clear. So we took a chance. We opened the door to the common room, walked over to the far corner, and sat down at the table with Tara Reynolds. I knew it was a long shot and that we wouldn't have much time. Tara Reynolds was silent. I wrote my name and number down on a piece of paper and handed it to her. Then I did my best to explain who I was, that I knew Sam, that I knew about the cabin, that I was the one who found her. She just stared ahead, her eyes looking past me, past the glass, past the hallway, perhaps even past the fabric of this reality. We got up to leave, and as I was reaching for my phone, Tara Reynolds grabbed my arm and spoke.
Come back.
"I'm right here.
You're not here, Nick.
Tara, I'm right here.
You're not here. You're supposed to be here.
Are they coming in?"
You're not here. You're not here. You're not here. You're not here.
At that point, Tara had to be restrained, and of course we were unceremoniously thrown out. I had no idea if Tara Reynolds had kept my contact information, or been allowed to keep it, or if in her current condition, she could even understand what contact information was. We called her family to ask once again for permission to visit her. They had their representative call us back with a polite no. So that's it for Tara Reynolds, for now. But there was somebody else in an institution who was finally willing to speak with me, on the record.
This call will be recorded and monitored. I have a collect call from an inmate at... If you would like to accept this and future collect calls...
Hello?
Hello, Nick.
I received an email from the Department of Corrections. An inmate wanted permission to get in touch. That inmate? Cult of Tanis Paul. After a few brief back and forth messages, we set up a time. Hey, Paul.
How is everything?
It's pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty well, actually, all things considered. Although I wish I wasn't stuck in here, obviously.
Obviously.
you been back there?
No, I haven't. What happened to Nathaniel Carter?
You know we didn't kill Carter, Nick. It's okay. I'm not asking you to testify or anything.
I have no idea what happened out there in the woods.
No?
No.
Is it hard to stay away?
No.
I don't believe you. Do you remember what happened, Nick?
What do you want, Paul?
I just want to talk.
What would you like to talk about?
The items you've been looking for.
How do you know what I'm looking for?
I've heard you've been asking questions.
Okay. What do you know about it?
The horn?
Yes.
I know it was taken away for a reason.
Taken away?
That's right.
What do you mean?
What do you really know about Eld Fen?
Only what I've read, John Corman's notes, some other rare fiction.
Eld Fen isn't fiction, Nick.
No?
No, it's very real.
Okay, I'm afraid I'm not prepared to entertain the existence of some ancient god behind everything.
Why not?
Well,
How is that any harder to believe than some of the other possibilities? Nick,
what?
you have considered the other possibilities. UFOs, aliens, demons.
I've considered and entertained and continue to entertain a lot of possibilities. And, I mean, wouldn't a more scientific solution make more sense?
You don't understand, Nick.
Okay, what don't I understand?
What I'm proposing is a scientific solution.
Okay, now I'm afraid I don't understand.
Exactly. They're all scientific solutions. It's just that we don't currently possess the science capable of explaining what's happening there. Here. Would we recognize God if we encountered one, Nick?
What does any of this have to do with the horn?
Okay, I'll be right off.
Paul?
Parzavala.
What do you know about Parzavala?
I used to work for them.
What did you do?
I'm afraid I'm running out of time.
Come on, Paul, you gotta give me some...
We were hunting down an artifact. Powerful items that contain certain atomic signatures.
certain artifacts like the horn?
No, there's no item like the horn.
Is it actually a horn?
Maybe. I don't know what it is.
Could it be something else?
I've never seen it, but it's not the item's provenance that's important.
No?
No. It's what they're going to try to do with it.
And what are they trying to do with it?
They want to communicate with what they refer to as the breach.
That doesn't sound all that sinister.
It's not, in theory.
Okay, but in reality?
If they bring that item back to Tanis, there's a very real possibility that reality as we know it might just cease to exist. Look, I'm all...
Sorry, I'm losing you. What was that? Well,
What?
oh,
I'm sorry, Nick, I have to go.
So, Cult of Tanis Paul knows something, or claims to know something, about the horn referenced in John Corriman's collection of documents. He told me that it had been taken from Tanis at some point, and Paul believes if the horn is taken back there, into those woods, it's possible that something apocalyptic might happen. He also told me that he used to work for Parzavella. Nathaniel Carter had been deeply connected to Parzavella. There were some threads here that I was having trouble connecting. I tried to get back in touch with Paul, but he's not currently allowed visitors for some reason. So, apparently, Paul is going to have to instigate our next conversation. In the meantime, I called Cameron Ellis. It was time to see about getting back into the woods, back to Pacifica Station. I was surprised by how calm I was, how I was seemingly unafraid of heading back there. I'd been through some pretty intense experiences in those woods, but I wasn't feeling appropriately terrified. Of course, I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to feel after spending a significant amount of time in the walled area around Tanis, but I felt like it was time to find out. Paul asked if I missed it, if it was difficult for me to stay away. I told him that it wasn't, but I'm not sure that's true. I certainly believed it as I was saying it to Paul, but now I'm not sure. The thought of getting back there, of revisiting the area, of stepping back into Pacifica Station, well, it was exciting. The night after I spoke with Paul, I was walking through the woods with Callie. It was raining. I felt a lightness in my head, a kind of pleasant anticipation. I wasn't sure what we were doing or where we were going. I asked Callie, and she told me that we were almost there. We moved through the woods from path to path, from large open clearings to small covered glens. We ended up walking next to a large creek for quite a while, which eventually wound its way to the place I knew we were headed. To the cabin. Only, the cabin wasn't there. On the bank of the creek where the cabin once stood, there was nothing. We stopped and Callie turned to me, serious, and asked me a question. Where is the red rock? I told her I had no idea and that we should probably turn around and head back. She told me that she was the witness and that there was no turning back. If you're the witness, I said, what does that make me? She just smiled and whispered something in my ear. I leaned forward. I couldn't quite make out what it was that she was saying. While I was leaned over, trying to figure out what Callie was saying, I saw it. An unimaginably tall, dark, earthy thing in long dark robes or rags, wearing a large bird-like mask, stepped out of the woods and started moving toward us. Callie was smiling and holding my arm, keeping me there. I tried to move, to run, but I couldn't. I was stuck. My heart started pounding in my chest. My mind was reeling. The buzzing, familiar blur burst into my skull, momentarily blinding me with not pain exactly, but a kind of dull pressure, a duality, as if something was trying to share my head, to break through a kind of wall, to take over. I finally managed to find my voice, and I asked Callie, who is that? Who is coming? She smiled and told me that I knew who was coming. That I'd always known. As the tall, weird bird thing kind of half crept and half floated across the cold, wet grass toward me, I finally shook off the buzzing in my head enough to move. I yanked my arm from Callie's grasp, turned, and started to run. I made it about 25 yards or so before I slipped and fell on the wet ground. As I started to get up, I turned to see the bird creature floating across the ground toward me, growing larger. I turned to run from the bird thing, but then there was a deer right in front of me. I moved closer, trying to shoo it away to save it from the dark thing that was fast approaching, but the deer didn't move. As I got closer, I could see why. Although it was standing, it was dead. Its body was crawling with worms and moths. I knew the bird thing was behind me, and I suddenly knew that I was dreaming, and that if something happened, if the bird thing found me, really found me here in this dream, it was possible that it could keep me here, that I could disappear from my world forever. I could feel the cold thing behind me as it leaned forward to take what it had come for. When the deer opened its mouth, and thousands of black wasps and gray moths came buzzing and flapping toward me in a rush,